Everyone thought it was going to be another open and shut case, another black kid in a courtroom, another name on the system's checklist. But that morning, the air inside Maplewood County Courthouse was anything but ordinary. It was thick, uncomfortable, almost electric. The gallery buzzed as spectators murmured and shifted in their seats. Some were there out of duty, others, curiosity, but not a soul expected what was about to happen. Standing beside the defendant's table, barely touching the edge, was Malik Jennings, 19, tall but lean, hands tucked in the pockets of his thrift store slacks. His chin was raised, not in defiance but in quiet, unwavering resolve. He wasn't supposed to look this calm. He was facing charges of grand larceny and felony evasion, the kind that could bury a young man's future for decades. But he stood there, not like a criminal, but like he was waiting for something, or someone, to slip up. Judge Maxwell Benton, a silver-haired man with a notorious reputation for efficiency, leaned back in his chair. His gavel rested lazily in one hand, his knuckles tapping a rhythm against the polished oak. "You think this is a debate club, son?" Benton's voice sliced through the murmurs, dry and condescending. "This isn't a game show. You're facing 15 years. Sit down and let your public defender do her job." A few people chuckled. The bailiff, the stenographer, even the lead prosecutor, Alana Fisk, sharp suit, sharper tongue, known for 3 things: winning, intimidation, and the expensive perfume that hung in the air when she walked by. But Malik didn't sit. He just turned and nodded, and that's when the first crack appeared in their expectations. The state made its opening argument. Fisk was good, almost flawless. She painted a vivid picture: a stolen Tesla Model X, a reckless chase through the city, Malik at the wheel, his fingerprints on the steering wheel, the testimony of Officer Tyler Grant, who personally saw Malik behind the wheel. It sounded airtight, but while the jury scribbled notes and the audience exchanged glances, Malik simply stood there, his eyes never leaving the judges. When Fisk sat down, confident and proud, Judge Benton turned to Malik's public defender. "Ms. Harper, your response?" Yvette Harper, mid-40s, a defender worn thin by years of systemic apathy, rose. But Malik gently placed a hand on her arm. She hesitated. He nodded once, then said the words that stopped the room cold. "Your Honor, I'll be representing myself." Gasps, raised brows, a single stifled laugh from the back row. Benton's eyes narrowed. "Yo, what?" Malik's voice didn't shake. "I'll be defending myself." From that moment, the air changed. The confidence in Fisk's eyes faltered. The jury leaned in, curious now. The courtroom that once laughed at Malik was now holding its collective breath. "Before I begin," Malik said calmly, "I'd like to clarify something with the prosecution." He looked straight at Fisk. "You said Officer Grant saw me behind the wheel before the pursuit began?" Fisk arched an eyebrow. "That's right," Malik nodded. "And that's written in his official statement?" "Correct." Then, with the calm of someone holding a full house, Malik turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I move to have that testimony dismissed, on the grounds that it's a lie." Benton blinked. "Explain." Malik stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "Officer Grant wasn't on duty during the time the chase began. His GPS log places him 3.2 miles away at a coffee shop, off-duty, until 8 minutes after the vehicle was already in pursuit. That's city data. It's verifiable." A stunned silence. Even the bailiff looked up. Fisk opened her mouth, closed it. "Do you have proof of this?" Judge Benton asked slowly. Malik held up a printed document. "Request for log verification. Submitted and time-stamped. I also subpoenaed a traffic cam that captured the real start of the chase. Grant isn't even in the car. It was Officer Ramirez who first spotted the vehicle." And just like that, Fisk's flawless narrative cracked. But Malik wasn't done. "The prosecution claims my fingerprints were on the steering wheel," he continued, pacing slowly in front of the jury box. "That's true, but let me ask you all something." He stopped. looked each juror in the eye. If you try on a jacket in a store, then someone else steals it later. Should you be arrested because your fingerprints were on it? A few heads tilted. Someone in the gallery whispered, "The car was unlocked. I leaned inside. I never drove it. I didn't even close the door." Benton raised a brow. "And you expect us to believe that?" "Maybe not yet," Malik said, "but let's talk about the fingerprints." He turned to Fisk. "Where's the forensic analyst who processed that evidence?" Fisk hesitated. "They weren't called." Malik nodded slowly, his face unreadable. "So the state wants to convict me based on prints, without giving me the chance to question the analyst. No cross-examination, no review of the chain of custody." The jury stirred. Then, just when the room began to settle, Malik dropped the final blow. "I'd like to submit a written statement from Mr. Benjamin Lawton, the vehicle's owner." Fisk stiffened. She knew what was coming. Malik read aloud, "I left my car running outside Quick Mart. When I came out, it was gone. I don't know who took it, but it wasn't the tall kid who asked me if I needed help with my groceries 10 minutes earlier. I remember him clearly. He even held the door open for me." Dead silence. Malik lowered the paper. "That kid was me." The courtroom sat frozen. Even Judge Benton had gone quiet. But Malik wasn't smiling. He didn't gloat, didn't grandstand, because he knew, but I never got a good look at him. A hush fell over the courtroom. Jalen let the words hang there, letting their meaning settle like dust after a storm. He lifted his eyes to meet the jury's. "The owner of the vehicle couldn't even identify the person who took his car, and yet, here I am." He placed the transcript gently on the defense table. Carrington was visibly sweating now, flipping through his folder in vain, like he could somehow conjure evidence that wasn't there. Judge Grayson shifted in his seat, now noticeably uncomfortable. His smirk had vanished, replaced with something closer to concern, or maybe guilt. Jalen continued. "I wasn't arrested at the scene. I was picked up 3 hours later because I fit the description." He turned, gesturing to himself. "A young black male, hoodie, jeans." He paused. "That could have been half the teenagers in this city." Someone in the gallery exhaled sharply. Another shook their head, whispering, "This is wrong." Jalen looked to the jury once more. "I'm not asking you to ignore the law. I'm asking you to look at it, to see where it's been bent, stretched, twisted. I'm not guilty of stealing that car. I'm guilty of looking like someone who could have." The tension had flipped. The power had shifted. Carrington finally spoke, his voice weaker than before. "Your Honor, the state, we request a brief recess." But Grayson held up his hand. "No," he said, his voice low. Then to Jalen, "Anything else?" Jalen nodded. "One last thing, Your Honor. I'd like to enter into evidence security footage from the 7-Eleven, obtained by my investigator yesterday." He held up a flash drive. "It shows me and my friends at the soda fountain at the exact time the car was stolen. And the footage outside? It clearly shows someone else getting into that Audi. Someone taller, someone wearing a baseball cap and a green varsity jacket." He turned to the jury again. "I wasn't even outside." The silence that followed was deafening. The courtroom wasn't just quiet, it was frozen. Judge Grayson leaned back slowly, and for the first time that day, he looked unsure, unsteady, human. After a long pause, he cleared his throat. "Prosecution, would you like to respond?" Carrington could only shake his head. There was nothing left to say. Grayson sighed heavily and looked at Jalen. "I've presided over hundreds of cases, Mr. Dawson. Some airtight, some a disaster, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like this." He turned to the jury box. "I think we can all agree this case is no longer what it seemed." He looked back at Jalen. "You shouldn't have had to defend yourself, but you did. And you did it with more poise, more knowledge, and more integrity than most attorneys I've seen stand in that spot." He turned to the court clerk. "This case is dismissed. The defendant is free to go." Gasps filled the courtroom. Someone in the back started clapping, then someone else. And before long, the entire room was on its feet, cheering. Not because a teen got away with something, but because truth had finally fought back and won. Jalen didn't smile. Not yet. He turned to his mother, Denise, seated near the front, tears silently running down her cheeks. She had raised him to think critically, to speak up when it mattered, to never back down from what was right. And he had done just that. As Jalen walked out of that courtroom, he didn't just walk out a free man. He walked out a symbol, a reminder. The system isn't always fair, but it can be challenged. That justice doesn't belong to the loudest voice or the most powerful name. It belongs to the truth. And sometimes it takes a kid with no law degree and everything to lose to remind a courtroom what justice is supposed to look like.